Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park. And today, we are honored to have a special guest with us in the studio, Blake Passmore. Thanks for joining us.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for asking me to be here.
Oh, it's going to be great. All of y'all out there hiking through the trails. Once in a while, you look up to the right or to the left and you see a peak. And it's usually not long until you ask yourself, I wonder what it takes to get up there. And we've wondered the same thing, and we've wandered off the trail a little bit. And Glacier Park is a great place for exploring peaks and summiting the mountains that surround the trails and the valleys. And, it's not smart to do it alone. It's not smart to do it without guidance. And we want to make sure that you know that. And there's hardly a better resource out there right now than Blake Passmore's books, Climb Glacier. I believe he's got 5 volumes out, and it covers, much of the park. Blake, tell us a little bit, I guess, about yourself and how much you love Glacier, why you're here, and what made you go ahead and put out a resource for people.
Well, thank you. I was born and raised right here in Kalispell and went to the park with my parents and my grandparents for many years, but it would be like Avalanche Lake, the campground, and once in a while hiking up to the lake, and then going up to Logan Pass. And I remember going up there before the boardwalk when you could, in the 60s, you could just walk wherever you wanted, and it was just amazing. But related to climbing, I remember going up to the loop and looking across and seeing Heaven's Peak, and it's like, one day I'm going to climb that, So I started climbing in the Jewel Basin, spent a lot of time in there hiking. And even before that was the Jewel Basin. I'm old school, Flathead Valley, and which is really cool. So I really have this deep love for the outdoors. And that was part of my motivation for making this book, because I love doing that with my family and I love doing that with my kids. And I wanted a resource where you can go do those things, be safe. And I really felt with the advent of color printing and, digital cameras and, new mapping software and GPS waypoints, that there could have been something better than the old the Climber's Guide to Glacier National Park. And the thing that really became the advent of coming with the new book is we got cliffed out on Clements Mountain. And we got on that goat trail and we missed those, those 5 rocks that Edwards talks about.
Yes.
Look for this, and you take that. We missed that, So we got in this really sketchy area above Birdwoman Valley, and we're like looking down, straight down in between our ankles, looking at the valley floor and climbing out. We got super lucky getting out of that without falling, or getting in a really bad situation. It was class 4, class 5. It was spooky. So that was kind of the start of this whole idea as far as the route, the red lines. So we would take photos and find photos, and this is where you go up. And that kind of became that advent of the beginning of the book series. And while I was hiking up to just on a hike, I talked to my buddy, John Van Arendonk, about it and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a guidebook. And he says, go for it, I'll help. So that first year in 2009, I made 38 trips or whatever to Logan Pass and climbed all of that stuff up there and just with friends. And that was kind of the start. And then I worked my tail off in the wintertime designing the layout and had lots of different renditions of that as well. But I wanted to make it a pictorial, like a climber's guide for dummies, if you will. And
when you're up there and you're looking at these things, you're kind of reading about it, things look totally different. And it depends on the season. It depends on, weather conditions sometimes, and whether it's in the afternoon or early morning. And so, yes, we will take that moniker and say, we were dummies when we first started. You really helped us get there.
Those pictures are huge.
Yeah, exactly.
And we speak for everyone who uses your books.
And that was the whole thing. It's like, look for that tree. Well, the tree's gone. The big rock's gone that Edwards wrote about, And it's just, or that big gully that you're doing when you're doing the Dragon's Tail. We never found that.
Yes.
We never found that goat trail that went across that, and you're going to fall, and all this. So
it's a ways down there on Dragon's Tail.
Yeah. So, so it's those kinds of things I think that were really valuable. And then I put some GPS waypoints in. If you have the old volume, the original volume of number 1, those ones aren't accurate, folks. So go to my website, Climb Glacier, and download the correct ones. The new, if you have the second edition, the second printing, they're accurate. I changed those things, but it's just lots of errors on my part. So don't trust those waypoints. Use your head. And be smart.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're not gonna critique it at all. We've used it so much, and it's just really helped us, and we appreciate that you took that challenge. Essentially, you saw that there was a need, and my dad worked for U.S. NRCS, soil survey, and it was. You mentioned that's kind of the same. Like, it's a busy season. On season and then off, you're working behind the scenes really hard as well to make sure those come out and they're accurate and they're ready to use. So Blake, climbing in Glacier National Park, in what ways is it unique? I mean, there's so many accessible summits. The rock is a little different. A lot of us have heard about that. It's shale. Like you've got to stay in places you can scramble for the most part. From what you've done, like what's kind of unique about Glacier National Park?
Well, I never trust a rock in Glacier.
Yeah.
Right? Even these big ones that are just ginormous, don't stand right below that and yank on that sucker because you and the rock may be bouncing down the slope. So never trust a rock. I think that's the main thing. The other thing I've really learned is that the higher you can get, if you get underneath the cliff band, there's always going to be a goat trail there. Trust that goat engineering. Your GPS goat positioning system is really good.
I like that.
So trust that because they know where they're going. If you can find that goat trail, you might have to walk a little further, but they're the ones that know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I also just love connecting the dots for island hopping is what I call it. So I'm going to go from this rock to that bigger rock. And, especially when you're going through all the shale and stuff, that's the thing that separates a really smart climber versus someone that's new is they're going to just go straight up that scree and they're going to work a lot harder.
Yeah.
So if you kind of go side to side, and I think you guys have found that as even when you're doing like Pegan, it's like find those goalies, go up those slopes that are washed with water.
Yeah.
And you say it too. You say pick a route that's comfortable for the group. You can kind of tell as you're going up if you're getting into something that's out of your league.
Yeah. And then communication.
Absolutely.
And wearing your helmets, even though I can't tell you the number of times I've had goats kind of be angry at me and throw rocks at me.
You just never know. Yeah.
You never know. So it's just smart.
What, Blake, I was curious, we're the hiking fools, we talk a lot about the trails in Glacier. Do you have a piece of advice, like a first piece of advice for those that are hikers that are transitioning to climbing and saying, I want to take that next step. I want to get off trail a little bit. What do they need to know?
Well, I always climb with like trekking poles. We're always going to have our helmet with us. I mean, those are no-brainers. Things seem to be always like farther, further, and harder than what you think too. So back in the day when we were climbing, we figured we could climb about 1,000 feet an hour. Okay. So if you've got 300 feet of elevation gain, that's a 3-hour deal. So I think now. You also, if you're climbing around Logan Pass, and that's, I think, where you should start, the new rules as far as the park and the opening and closing of Logan Pass only having those 3 hours, I think. Yeah. You don't have a big enough window to do that stuff. So it takes another layer of planning as well. And that might be an interesting thing for you guys to talk about because it's not only just for climbers, it's for people that want to do those hikes too. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the important dates, and this year at the recording of this episode, it's changing again. It's a pilot program, as the NPS continues to say, and they're trying to improve it, but it's a little different this year. If you want to figure that out, you're going to need to look at that express shuttle to Logan Pass if you want to climb in that area. Yeah. So I think as a beginner climber, find somebody else that's gone and done this before. The School of Hard Knocks is a great way to learn, but it's not the best way to learn. Especially, and so I would really recommend that they just find somebody. Join the Glacier Mountaineering Society. They have trips planned, and they are fools about climbing in the park, right? Yeah. Or go on Thursdays and find the Over the Hill gang. I mean, they're just great people too. My very first climb was Pollock Mountain.
Oh.
And my buddy and I went in there, oh, yeah, we're going to do Mount Si. Well, we park at Lunch Creek. That's a problem, right? Right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so we're taking, oh, yeah. And one of those over-the-hill guys, well, where are you headed? I said, well, we're doing Si. He says, well, this is a weird way to do that. So we were new to it, you know?
Yeah.
So we get up to the saddle, and it was just this beautiful day, you know? And then my buddy remembered a little video series that he saw about the cleft and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we went up, and by the time we got up there, it was winter. I mean, snow blowing, like cold, you know, and we ate lunch up there. We got out of the wind and had lunch, and it was amazing. Got back down to that saddle. It was blowing so hard, it literally lifted me off the ground. So then we're crab walking back down under the lee of the wind, to descend. So that was my first experience for climbing. So as a new person, it's really important that you take somebody that knows what they're doing, or at least take this silly guidebook called Climb Glacier National Park.
Super helpful. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, and you heard it. Even Blake, you know, starting out, there's a lot to learn, and so we're going to hear a little bit more from him. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
This is Don Bennett with Freedom Bank. Whether you're climbing up Apgar Lookout or strolling around Lake McDonald, you can check your balance, pay bills, or move money, all from your phone. That's right. We're the kind of bank that hikes with you, without slowing you down. Freedom Bank, personalized service, powerful tools, and a hometown heart. Proud sponsor of Hiking Fools with Josh and Sarah. Go explore. We've got your banking covered. Member FDIC.
All right, welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools, and in this episode, talking with Blake Passmore, author of Climb Glacier, photographer extraordinaire, and he's just got so much knowledge. You know, we're picking his brain a little bit here, but dig into those resources. He put them out there for a reason, super helpful. We use them all the time, recommend them for climbing in Glacier. And Blake, we talked a lot about kind of the leading up to this point, the resource itself, and wondering, we have to ask you, you know, what are some of, or maybe one or two of your most memorable climbs in the park? And if you can, break it down into, there's so many things to consider on a climb. You know, when you reach the summit, the views that you take in, some are spectacular, some are better than others. A little bit the actual climb sometimes is the fun part, picking your way through. You know, sometimes it's who you're with, the group. You know, it just has a good chemistry and you're having fun. And also the weather, season, as you mentioned already. Sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes you run into 4 seasons on one climb, and that's okay. That's very interesting. But, you know, breaking it down in that way, or any of those elements or combination thereof, what are some that are pretty memorable to you?
Well, I'm a sucker for like ridge traverses. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like that scenic point traverse where you hit Medicine and then Henry and point 8650 in Apostokey, or you could go to Ellsworth and then hit Never Laughs Mountain and come out. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And one memorable one is I went with a friend of mine, Ben Van Arendonk, and him and I just headed off, and we hit Ellsworth or Apostokey first, and kind of did a little bit different. But it was one of those crisp fall days where you start out and it's chilly, so you gotta bundle up a little bit. But then it was in the 70s in the afternoon, and coming down in September, going back from Ellsworth down to Never Laughs Mountain, and about got ran over by a pika. It was a one of those moments. It's just like, I mean, I felt threatened. You know, I had my pika spray out. You know, and it was just one of those things, and I had to recover from that a little bit. You know. And so as we're sitting there having lunch, we're hearing the elk bugle down at Buttercup Park, and it was just one of these things, you know. And then we get on to Never Laughs, and we found this amazing descent, like this really fine, like, just so beautiful, like powder of rock, and just skiing down. And then we found the old Buttercup Park Trail, and you know that thing. If you've ever done that, it's just like you walk on it for 100 yards and it gets wiped out by an avalanche or whatever. So you have to find it again. It was so cool. It was just, that's one of the top traverses that I've done. And that Two Medicine traverse from Red Crow Pass to Two Medicine is just stellar as well. There's goat trails all the way. You get to DeSanto Pass, which is this just named for Ron DeSanto, who was a park ranger up in the park, and it's just this beautiful, and nobody goes there, So I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sinopon Mountain is one of my faves down there, and I've done that 2 or 3 times with buddies, and I think that's probably one of the top views because you can 360-degree views just like everywhere in the park, but that one's great.
That red rock against the green and the blue sky is just in that area, the Two Medicine area is terrific.
Exactly, Josh. And then, I think Logan Pass, I've had all of my kids up on Oberlin. I've had all of them up on Reynolds. And, as far as just, people ask me, what's your favorite climb? What's the last one I did?
I can see, just so you know, I can see in your eyes are glistening, like, oh, it's just so fun. You get right back there when you talk about it, and that's what excites us as well, but I can see it in you.
Yeah, but for me now, I've probably been on, 91 different summits and probably 250 plus, different times on park summits. And it's just like, it's not about the place anymore. It's about the people I experience that with. And that's really that thing that I want people to know. It's taking that time to have those moments with your friends and family and create those lasting memories, because nobody can ever take that time that I had with my kids from me or my friends. And that's the thing about Glacier. It's that sacred place, that it gets you, And when I lived over in Italy for a year, and I'm hiking in the Dolomites and climbing in the Dolomites, and it's amazing, right? But it's not home.
Yeah.
Glacier is home, and that's
so cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's passion, the shared passion, and you get with a group, and it's like this. And you said it. Let's visit that a little bit. We want with your kids, with our grandkids, like we want this place to be here. So what are some of those things? We want to conserve the park. What can we do? How can we help and make sure that's here for generations?
Well, and I think the main thing is just there's rules, and I'm a Montana guy, right? And I think rules are sometimes made to be broken, the stupid ones, right? And my partner knows that too. It's like, this is dumb, but these rules we have in the park, as far as staying on the trail, not doing the shortcut stuff, not picking the flowers. Please, please, please go bury your toilet paper in your poo. We don't need to be seeing that junk. Get off the trail if you have to relieve yourself and bury it. That's that leave no trace thing that so many people have just like, this isn't Disneyland. These aren't caged animals. Give the animals the space they need. Stay on the trail. The Park Service, especially in Glacier by Logan Pass, they have established climbers trails. And my books specifically say where those are at.
Yeah.
Stay on them. Don't shortcut stuff. And let's just keep it preserved for my great-grandchildren.
Yeah. No, true. So true. Leave no trace.
Totally agree.
Important. I've got to know, I think we have our own ways, but after the epic climb with the friends and family, curious, how do you celebrate an accomplishment such as a peak or a ridge traverse or something? What are you looking forward to at the end of that?
Well, sometimes it might be, if we have some time to sit at the trailhead, it might be a cold beverage, an adult beverage. Within reason, make sure you're eating the food, I remember one particular time we did the Crowfoot to Henkel Traverse, and just a great day. And sadly now the restaurant has burned down there in Babb.
Yeah.
And I'm spacing on
Cattle Baron?
The Cattle Baron, right? And it's
Supper
burned
Club.
down, but there were 4 of us, and me, the big spender, I bought dinner for everybody. It was like $450. So that was a celebration, right? Sure. But it was just like one of those things, like, we're going to go and just get whatever you want. And, we should have split the plates because their steaks were just ginormous, right? Yeah. So, but sitting and just having something afterwards. Take your lawn chairs,
Sure.
And don't let those people bug you. Well, are you leaving? No, we're going to be here for about 45 minutes.
Yeah. Sit and reflect. There's so much sensory experience. It's hard to, you've got to just sit and take it in, let it absorb for a minute.
Yeah, exactly, Josh. Yeah, it's just that, just sitting there and enjoying that time and talking about that. So
excellent. Well, these folks, our listeners will pick up your books because you must do it. You've got to have them if you're going to climb in Glacier. Is there anything else, Blake, in the final minute here, is there anything else you want people to know or anything else you'd like to share?
Sure. Volume 3 is out of print right now. Good old Uncle Sam, they haven't given me my tax refund yet. So we're waiting on the print to reprint on that. So, but you can buy them all digital, and that's really the way to go because you can just have them on your phone.
Nice, yeah.
And you can download those right from my website. Maybe we could put a link in your in the show notes.
Yep.
But that's it. Just be smart, have fun. Take lots of pictures and enjoy your friends and family up in the park.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Yes. We know you've got your next adventure in sight, and we wish you the best, and we'll see you climbing in Glacier. We've seen Blake on a summit or two ourselves, and keep an eye out for him. What a good guy. Check out our Instagram page at Hiking Fools MT for some great photos of our recent adventures, and tune in next time. Check out more episodes online, and remember to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go.